Okay, so let's get right into it. So yes, this is my first red bit. This is the very first, guys. Okay, so do you guys ever have those moments where you feel like the universe is trying to tell you something? Like you keep seeing the same topic over and over again. I mean, it comes up in everything, or things that seem unrelated, but you're like, oh, I just feel like there's something that I'm missing here and I need to probably pay attention to this. So these first 2 months of 2019 have been really chock full of this for me, with one particular topic: listening. And that's been kind of weird for me. It's been a little perplexing because I thought, I already feel like I'm pretty empathic, like probably to a fault. So why does this keep on coming up in things that I'm reading or in conversations that I'm having or at work? Like really, it has been in my face at every turn. Our Sandler training here at Red Pepper, at Pepperpalooza, at client meetings, in conversations in my personal life with you guys, even in my yoga classes. It's all about tuning in and listening to your body. And it just has been going on and on. So I decided to lean into this whole listening well thing and try to spend intentional time around defining the place that listening holds in my work and in my life. And I was actually surprised to understand how core this idea is for me personally. And I thought that I would use my red bit to talk to you guys about the clarity that I got when I really took a step back and thought about it for a second. And I know it seems kind of obvious that listening is important and that there are ways to do it well, but I wanted to bring this up as just a small reminder that even paying a tiny bit of attention to something that seems sort of innate and insignificant can really have a huge impact in your life. It's these little things that can really stretch in all the things that you're doing. And it's been kind of amazing that doing this has had a really big impact on me here especially, and really has made me a happier person. So I'm going to get into that a little bit. To start out by acknowledging our primary source for today, it is a book, a leadership book. The universe kind of finally shouted at me in a way that I could crystallize and understand what I was lacking in the listening department when I picked up this book at the airport. And this is actually the very same book that Sam recommended to us when she was talking to us about square squads. I would totally recommend that you read this if you get the chance. But buying this book was a big deal for me, guys. Like, I grew up in a very leadership-focused family. My dad is a businessman. He gave me the Strengths Finder book when I was 12 years old and was like, just take this and read this. And my results were confusing to him. I think he was looking for like businesswoman and good at math, and it was woo. Woo was my strength, and I think he was disappointed. So I, with a shaking hand in the airport, picked up my first leadership book. The Red Pepper has infected me with wanting to grow and read stuff that isn't just literature. And it turned out that the book is full of wonderful things and takeaways that have really changed my perspective. But the biggest one by far comes from this quote. If only we listened with the same passion that we feel about being heard. And to paraphrase that for you guys the way that I have for myself when I've been repeating it to myself, listen with the same passion with which you want to be heard. Let me say it again. Listen with the same passion with which you want to be heard. I mean, I read this and thought, that is convicting. I mean, because can I honestly say that I listen to my husband tell me about his day with the same passion with which I tell him about mine? Or do I call my best friend and listen to her with the same passion as I do listen to my own brain? Or to my clients, do I listen to their concerns and their thoughts and their feedback with the same passion that I tell them about the work I've done for them or show you guys the work that I've done? The answer was no, and it still sort of is no. This is a growth thing for me personally. But I wondered what would be different if I really made this dedicated effort at getting better at this and at really showing up and not being so selfish all the time when I interact with others. And that could be really huge. So I started out by thinking, and I'd love for you guys to kind of do the same, to reflect on who is your listener. Like, who's the person that you turn to when you really need to be listened to well? I mean, for me, mine is my mom. I thought this was hilarious when trying to find a photo of her. I noticed that this was her Facebook profile photo that she cropped my father out of because she thought she looked really cute. She does. But can you think of a time where you shared something with someone that was really weighing on you and what it feels like when you've really gotten something off your chest or you've had the chance to express something that you just can't talk about and what that feels like? I would argue that it feels like this. It's liberating. You feel lighter and honest, and maybe kind of like Nick Cage does here. And all that catharsis simply because another human listened to you without judgment. I mean, that moment that you're imagining is an example of what I want to do more of in my life. It's the kind of listening worth striving for more in our personal lives and also here at work. At the end of the day, it's about connecting. It's about connecting authentically and empathetically. So back to Brene Brown for a second, the author of the book I showed you guys earlier. Let's look closer at how listening well is really about that sense of connection. Brene Brown describes this well, I think. I define connection as the energy that exists between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued, when they can give and receive without judgment, and when they derive sustenance and strength from the relationship. So the kind of listening that I want to strive for isn't just listening, it's connection. So let's call out this formula a little bit here, because this is really how I was going to get better at this, right? Connection is the energy that exists between people when they feel seen, heard, valued, safe, and fed, strengthened and sustained by your presence or what you've given to that interaction. And I just want to note two things especially here, that connection isn't something that can be fake. It's an energy. It's not just words. And it isn't about you and what you're hearing and taking in. It's about how you made the other person feel. It's about the feeling that you're creating. And if both parties in a conversation are trying to make sure that the other person feels valued and heard, I really bet that would make for a lot stronger connections, all across life, all across our work here together, and in your personal life as well. So I wondered, how can I practically get better at doing these 5 things? And just to kind of spell out to you guys the things that I've sort of been processing and working through here, especially when it comes to clients. Sometimes clients ask you to do things that are frustrating. You don't understand why they asked you for something or what it's going to do for them. But I will say that when you take a second to step back and sort of move through this framework, it really takes the weight off of things that feel frustrating and turns it into an opportunity for you to support other people. So to give you a sense of kind of what this looks like when you're in the actual moment, I have found that when you listen well, it heals all. So first, I strive to really see the person I'm speaking to and what is motivating them at that moment. Second, I try to make sure to hear what they are really saying and asking for, not the fluff, but what they want me to honestly take away. And I try to ask questions that cut through the posturing and get clarity around what that is. Like, what is the honest thing that we need to be talking about here? Third, I make sure to actually value their opinion and their perspective and ensure that they know that I value their opinion and their perspective, because people can smell bullshit a mile away. I know all of you guys can. It's a big part of our industry, right? I make sure that the other person feels safe to be honest and upfront, and this is huge. All of this, all of the good things that can come from listening well, break down if people can't be honest and vulnerable. And I make sure that they know that I'll take what they've said to heart and do my best to make sure that they feel heard. When you do those 5 things really, really well, nothing is a chore. Everything is an opportunity for you to enjoy the process of supporting someone else and giving them what they need if you really take the time to understand why they're asking you for something. There are also 2 small watch outs that I've learned kind of from experience and in trying to get better at this. The very first is that there is no room for bullshit or cynicism in listening well. There's nothing worse than watching somebody be insincere or somebody kiss ass or try and sell something that they don't believe in. It is painful, and it's the same thing when it comes to listening. People can sense insincerity. If you keep insincerity at the table, you're just not going to be as successful in actually really communicating what you're trying to get across. It's also about being bold in disagreement and being willing to come to the table with an opinion that maybe isn't popular, but have the space to listen to each other and talk that stuff out. The second point would be people and their thoughts and feelings aren't games. I don't know if you guys have ever had a conversation with someone who you know that you're speaking to them and you're pouring your heart out and you can't help but feel like they are analyzing your posture, your body language, the way that you're phrasing your sentences. They're half listening to you, and it's not necessarily that they're analyzing you in an effort to help you or support you or make you feel heard. It's almost as if they're going to try to manipulate you. And that's just the worst possible way to build trust. And it really cripples opportunities for people to be their best, most honest selves, especially in the workplace. So I'd encourage you guys to kind of stay away from those two things as you practice your listening. And I hope that you're inspired to try these simple things. I know it seems maybe like a small thing or an obvious thing, but just drawing a little bit of attention to the way that you can use listening to spark a little more joy in your own process and in your own work. My girl Maria up here, she knows. I can just not even express to you guys what a difference it's made in my own happiness on the day-to-day basis, especially when it comes to how we serve our clients and how I can serve you guys. So I would love to leave you guys with a quote that I hope inspires you. I want to write about the great and powerful thing that listening is and how we forget it and how we don't listen to our children or those we love. And least of all, which is so important too, to those we do not love, but we should, because listening is a magnetic and strange thing, a creative force. When we are listened to, it creates us, makes us unfold and expand. Ideas actually begin to grow within us and come to life. Thank you.